Hey, good evening, everybody. It looks like we are live here on the Syracuse Orange Facebook page for football and on YouTube. This is Syracuse Orange postgame presented by Krause Health. Syracuse football opens the 2021 season with a 29-9 victory over the Ohio Bobcats. My name is Brent Axe. Get in the chat room. Get excited, Syracuse football fans. They started with a win. A win is a win in a lot of ways, and we've got a lot of things to discuss when it comes to this game. I do think we have Syracuse football head coach Dino Babers live right now. His press conference is going on. Let's see if we can listen in on this and hear what the coach is saying. Stand by.
People say that's what this game is all about. Hopefully we'll be able to connect on those things down the road. And then Tommy, with some of the reads he was making really good reads, especially on either keeping it or giving it to Sean. What can you talk about talking with him before the game, or how you think he played in terms of running the
You know, Tommy has been around a long time, so he really does understand the offense. You can appreciate talking to him during the game. He's very calm. He sees a lot of what's going out there. It's not an issue of a lack of knowledge or anything like that. And when he's executing at a level like this, it's hard to take him out.
Last year, we're going to mark you, Chris. Offensive line, best game since.
Again, it was a really good game by the offensive line. I think Ohio's a really good football team. The competition level steps up, and we're going to have to see how we do against higher competition.
Folks, if you're watching here live, you might want to turn your volume up so you can hear Coach. I think we can hear him pretty well, but back the volume up a little bit here so you can hear what the coach is saying.
It was more physical than what you guys said. That was a physical game, and I think that's why you saw some of the emotion. Now, I don't like those penalties. I don't like those penalties at all. But if you're going to have a penalty, it needs to be a physical penalty, not an emotional one, but physical penalties. And I think you saw some of that today. It was a hard hitting out there.
Thanks, everybody. We'll get players in a minute. We'll just make a little pass right here to get
Let's go through. I thought you were talking about.
Okay, looks like we got in for just a couple of minutes there for head coach Dino Babers. Certainly a happy head coach after the Orange start the 2021 season with a 29-9 victory over the Ohio Bobcats. And there are a few things that pop off the page in this game. Number one, the deuce is loose. Wow. What a debut for Syracuse freshman cornerback Deuce Chestnut. He was one of the few players on the Syracuse depth chart that had not played. A lot of young guys got on the field last year. That was one of the benefits, I guess you could take from a season where you go 1-10. So many young players got on the field, right? Deuce Chestnut, 7 tackles, an interception. He's all over the place. And for a guy who had not played coming into this game, he looked like a veteran and looks to be the next in line of these impressive cornerbacks and safeties that Syracuse has churned out just in recent years. You're talking about Andre Sisco. You're talking about Ife Melifonwu, Trill Williams, all in NFL camps right now. And Garrett Williams is going to join him there. Garrett Williams with a solid game tonight as well for the Orange. And Deuce Chestnut, amazing. Of course, the other big name that pops out is Sean Tucker. Syracuse has, all the talk before the season was who's QB1? Well, we know RB1. And if he keeps going at this rate, guys, they might have to give him the number 44. Sean Tucker, 25 carries, 181 yards, 1 touchdown. He ran over, through, above, around, any direction you could think of through the Ohio defense. He had an impressive freshman year last year, 636 yards behind a depleted offensive line, a different offensive line, it seemed, week in and week out. There was a few games where Tucker dealt with some injuries himself last year. He was fantastic on the field. Of course, the big question coming in tonight was the quarterback situation. Tommy DeVito, 11 of 17, 92 yards. Garrett Schrader did get on the field, but it was in mop-up duty, garbage time late in the game. Almost didn't count in a way. So I don't know if Dino was kind of holding his cards for Rutgers next week. I still think we're going to see Garrett Schrader get on the field, but I don't feel like Tommy DeVito went out there and commanded the job tonight. Don't get me wrong. Tommy made some great plays tonight. He had a great touchdown run in the first quarter. He ran the RPO really well tonight. I think he made some really good decisions in that. Misfired on a couple of deep throws, though, to Taj Harris, both of which should have been touchdowns. It was the first game. Tommy was coming back after missing 8 games last year due to injury, so I don't want to make a huge declarative rubber stamp statement yet, but I still think there were some opportunities, particularly in the red zone, where Garrett Trader could have gotten in the game. There were a couple red zone opportunities that came up short for the Orange. Maybe we see that next week against Rutgers, so I was a little disappointed in that. All in all, though, Syracuse made some great defensive stops on Ohio in the red zone. Syracuse ends up with 383 total yards on the night. But how about this? Ohio didn't have one penalty in that game. I mean, they did. They just didn't get called for any. Syracuse with 4 penalties for 39 yards. It looked like it was going to be an issue for Syracuse for a while. Didn't turn out to be ultimately game costing or anything of that nature. But boy, beggars can't be choosers in one sense with Syracuse going 1-10 last year. I mean, if you want to look on the bright side, they've already matched their win total from a year ago and can only go from here. So great comments from you guys so far. I see David talking about the tackling. I see my guy Jermaine back in here. He's got the arms up there. Syracuse with a solid physical victory, physical game. And Ohio came into this game with, the reputation of being a physical football team. They came in and, they have a terrific running back who made some plays in this game. But, Ohio just couldn't run with Syracuse. Syracuse took a 9-0 lead. There were some moments in this game where Ohio maybe was going to seem like this thing was going to go deep into the fourth quarter, but that Syracuse defense, particularly Deuce Chestnut, really stepped up. Jeff, you're playing my tune here. There was a red zone opportunity where Tommy DeVito on 3rd and goal had to scramble to his left. Nobody open, throws it away. I mean, are we going to do this again? Throw the ball to the tight end. Luke Benson is a terrific tight end, and I don't know why Syracuse doesn't get him the ball more. Now, the unfortunate thing coming into tonight, and I didn't hear if Dino addressed this, and if he has and it's out there, you guys pop it in the chat. I haven't seen it as of yet. But Chris Elmore did not play for Syracuse tonight. He traveled with the team, but did not warm up, did not dress, did not play, which was a big surprise. He was a name we had not heard had been injured or in any other situation. You're always wondering about COVID and things of that nature these days, but that was a surprise for sure. Isaiah Cox, Ohio's a big-time receiver, their number one guy, averages 19 yards a catch. He was also held out of this game for disciplinary reasons. McKinley Williams and Dakota Davis did travel, and they've been both out of camp for a while. McKinley due to an illness, Dakota due to a foot injury. Didn't see much of them on the field last night, but they were available in emergency situations. And, certainly with Syracuse emerging out there and winning the game the way that they did, you didn't have to put them out there in that situation. So we'll see if those two guys are better for the next game. Mike notes here in the chat that the offensive line looked a lot better and kept DeVito upright. And Mike, that is so huge, as we know. That is just so key with this team. DeVito needs that extra half second or second as primarily a pocket passer. Don't get me wrong. He had some really nice runs tonight, but he's a pocket passer. And he needs that extra half second or second to deliver the ball, to make that decision. I think he locked in on Taj Harris a little bit too much tonight. He had that problem with Tristan Jackson when he was healthy a couple of years ago, so hopefully he can spread the wealth a little bit and get it to Courtney Jackson. Anthony Quealy had a few catches tonight. Throw to the tight end, as I mentioned. It's a big pet peeve of mine. I don't know why they don't do that and refuse to do it. And, here we are in game one, so hopefully that gets better here. So I don't think they answered the quarterback position fully. I don't think DeVito necessarily lost the job tonight, but for the comments that Dino Babers made throughout the week about he needs somebody to come and take command of the job, he didn't give Garrett Schrader the opportunity to do that, at least in this game. But I don't think Tommy DeVito went out there and did anything that necessarily lost him the job. I saw Blake says it here. Yeah, I think the play calling definitely was conservative. And I think once Syracuse built the lead and showed that the defense was going to hold down, they could beat this Ohio team. I think that is a conscious decision to not show your cards, because you want to pull out those plays against Rutgers. You can certainly beat Albany the next week without pulling out a lot of your playbook, and then you play Liberty in a Friday night game after that, which has turned into a big game given how good Liberty has become in recent years. So Mark notes, not happy with the pass rush or lack thereof. Don't recall any blitzes. That was kind of surprising given the aggressiveness of Tony White's 3-3-5. There were some times they got some pressure on the quarterback, just couldn't get to the quarterback. So that's something to see improve going forward. I agree with that. But, man, with the way Deuce Chestnut was playing, the way Marlo Axe, I think, had a great game. I think he led the team in tackles, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check on that here while we're yakking about it here. Jump over to defense. And yes, no, it was Mikal Jones, my fault, who led the team with 9 tackles. Deuce Chestnut ends up with 8 on the night. Jeff Kentner-Coup with 7 on the night. So all in all, a win for Syracuse, and they get Rutgers next week at the Carrier Dome. I think we got our friend Chris Carlson standing by, folks, in Athens, Ohio. Chris, let me bring you in live from lovely Athens. Tell us your reactions in postgame and what Dino had to say and your impressions from this one.
Yeah, to me, like the sort of like, hope is back. Like, it's okay to hope again. If you're a Syracuse fan, this team looked good enough, to hope. It's Ohio. You don't prove anything probably by beating Ohio in the opener. But the offensive line controlled a game against Ohio like they should. The defense certainly tightened up, whenever the opponents got in the red zone. Dino talked about being very happy with kind of how the team responded to what he considered a really physical game, a really physical challenge. He said that was probably his biggest takeaway is sort of how they handled that.
Chris, it was a surprise to see Chris Elmore not dressed, not lined up for this game beforehand. Do we know anything about his status?
I asked that after the game, and nope, too much information was the response when asked if they could kind of disclose anything, whether it was injury or disciplinary or whatever. So we're not getting anything, but he said they were very, happy to have him with the team. On the sidelines, he led the team sort of outside the tunnel, which would certainly make you think, hey, it's nothing disciplinary. He was one of the first guys leading the team outside the tunnel. So in this time that we're in, you can maybe guess a little bit as to what might have been involved in some capacity, whatever that is, right? I don't know the answer to that, but that's my guess, but not from Dino's mouth.
Chris, we jumped in a little late on Coach Babers there and got some comments on it, but having been at the press conference, what did he say about the Garrett Schrader, Tommy DeVito shuffle and his decision on riding DeVito for most of this game?
He said he liked the way Tommy was playing, and I'm remembering this, and I wish I had his words, right? I wish I could quote him back verbatim. But he liked the way Tommy was playing, and he thought the way they were running the offense with a lot of reads, a lot of decisions, quick decisions being made by the quarterback. They're things that Tommy has done for his whole time here and is very comfortable doing, right? The things that they decided to use against Ohio. So he thought Tommy was the guy for this game. Did not talk at all about sort of moving forward, whether this is how it works. Tommy plays until it doesn't work, or if there will be a little bit more of an intention to get Garrett in. But I certainly, based on today, you certainly think Tommy starts every game, you see how it goes, and maybe you adjust from there. That was certainly their sort of approach, I would think, today.
Chris, Deuce Chestnut had one of the more impressive debuts a Syracuse player has had I've seen in a while, and he was one of the few players that came out on the depth chart that hadn't played a game, and he looked like a 4-year veteran out there. What was the view in Athens of his debut? He was all over the field tonight, 8 tackles and a pick.
Yeah, Dino said afterwards, he said the first play he made was a bad one, and he got on him on the sidelines, for the one sort of missed tackle. He didn't miss one, the rest of the night. Dino has coached a long time and said he can't remember a defensive back who had a better first game. Didn't declare it to be the best, but said he could not recall kind of a debut defensive back performance as good as Deuce. I mean, just his open field tackling, for a first-year player, Ohio worked. Oh, that was like Ohio's plan. Like, they worked early in that game to get guys in space on him, and he shut it down, pretty much every time. Really, they've got themselves another stud defensive back. That seems pretty clear.
And they have a stud running back too, Chris. Sean Tucker, not a surprise because we saw him do this last year, but to go out there and dominate, he did everything against this Ohio defense tonight. And all the talk coming in this year was about who's QB1. Well, even with a deeper running back room, we know who RB1 is on this team. He keeps this up, Chris. I don't know. Chris Elmore might be right. They might have to give him the 44.
Yeah, you know, I sort of rolled my eyes a little bit at that comment, you know, or at least the legendary part of it. Like, we are the land of legendary running backs, and a legendary season is a lot. But maybe I was wrong to roll my eyes at the L word. You know, he was marvelous. You know, the one thing that amazes me, and we didn't get to see these guys in person at all last year, right? So this is the first kind of year that we get a chance to see them in person. Like, he is just a solid, like, there is not an ounce of fat. Like, he is a squat. His thighs are huge. Like he is a dude.
Well, Chris, we'll let you get back to work out there in Athens. Great job. And we'll be reading your stuff, of course, on syracuse.com. And appreciate you joining us here on Syracuse Football Postgame presented by Krause Health.
Thanks, Brent. Everybody have a great night. Thanks,
Chris. Great to see Chris there from Athens. We had the Dino's press conference as well. We're adding a few elements to the postgame show this year. I hope you guys like that, and hoping to get a little more live coverage in there and check in with our reporters. And, you know, if we can get to Dino on time, tonight we did, and got a little bit of Dino and what he had to say there, and get a reporter's perspective there from somebody who was right there in Athens. So good stuff there from Chris. Just been following your comments a little bit as well. Rob asked an interesting question. Is it possible Elmore's absence played into Schrader not being out there? I don't think so. I think that the plan was the plan no matter what, and they were going to kind of ride out the game and see how it goes. But I definitely think at the very least in a couple red zone opportunities, you could have got Schrader out there. That's for sure. A couple other things that stood out tonight. I mean, those are the big headlines, folks. Sean Tucker had a terrific game. Deuce Chestnut had a terrific game. Syracuse wins, and you'll take a win any way you can get it. Just to go over some numbers from this one, 383 total yards for Syracuse, 346 for Ohio. Syracuse total 283 rushing yards. So 283 out of 100 yards on the ground tonight for Sean Tucker and a couple guys who got in late in the game. Syracuse had 21 first downs in this matchup. 14 of those were on the ground. I mean, just goes to show you how dominant they were running the football. Both teams ran 63 plays in this game. Syracuse 5 of 5 in the red zone. 27 of their 29 points came in the red zone. The Orange were 8 of 12 on third down. That's encouraging. Again, some of those penalties you don't want to see happen. That was a major problem for Syracuse last year, but just 4 penalties for 39 yards on the night for the Orange. So that's kind of the story in terms of the team stats in this. Looking at some more individual stats, you know, DeVito did rush for 49 yards, had a couple of nice runs out there. You know, I'd like to see Syracuse mix it up and throw to more receivers out there. Just 5 receivers caught the ball tonight. I think I can nitpick a little bit on that because, boy, there's a lot of talent at wide receiver. There's a couple of young guys, Aronde Gatson, who's 6'5", 215. You've got Damian Alford, who's 6'6", 215. I'd like to see them get out there. I mean, you can only, you know, throw to a certain number of receivers. I get that, but, you know, throws to the tight end tonight, just 5 catches. I mean, Taj Harris should have had a much bigger day. That is not his fault. Taj got open in the end zone. He got open streaking down the sideline, and Tommy just couldn't deliver the ball on the mark there. I like Anthony Quealy. I think he's a firm number 2 receiver on this team with number 1 receiver talent. At some point, he had 3 catches for 39 yards. And other than that, just a couple of catches for Jarvion Howard and Sherrod Johnson. And this one, Tuggle, the running back for Ohio, just 65 yards on the night. And this is a guy who was really good last year. And I think he averaged about 125 yards, if I'm not mistaken, right around there a year ago. So for the Syracuse defense to hold him to 65 yards, encouraging. So Rutgers is next for the Orange. And Rutgers today, I don't know if you guys saw this today, but Greg Schiano, our old friend Greg Schiano, he's back, baby, collided with a TV camera in Rutgers game today. I'll pull up the score of that one. I don't have it with me offhand. I'll look that up while we're yakking about it here. But unfortunate collision there for Greg Schiano. Hopefully he's okay and good to go. The coaching thing was interesting tonight as well because Frank Solich, and college football fans know that name, the longtime coach at Nebraska, later at Ohio, of course, a friend of Dino Babers, great football mind, unfortunately had to step down just about a month and a half ago due to a health issue. So it was Tim Albin taking over. And, look, Ohio was pretty much what Frank Solich would want him to do. It was a kind of a vanilla power running football game. Rutgers rolled today, by the way, 61-14 over Temple. So if Dino was holding something back on offense tonight when Syracuse kind of took the lead, you got to bring it out against Rutgers next week, because at least in the early going here, this team looks like it can score in bunches. They're going to be aggressive. I know they had a couple of defensive touchdowns in that game as well. So Rutgers coming in hot after a 61-14 victory today. And next week is the first game for many of you, if you're going, and for any fans, in the Dome, the new Dome 2.0. Right? Because they built the new dome, the new roof, the whole thing. COVID hits last year and nobody's going to games. So I'll tell you, having been at FanFest just over a week ago, first and foremost, the air conditioning. It's glorious. We know how hot those games can get in early September in the Dome sometimes. The AC's cranking, and I'm sure Dino doesn't like that. He likes the sweat box it can be for opponents. I certainly enjoyed it at FanFest last week. The place looks great. The scoreboard's amazing. The way that they've kind of done the new paint job with the retired numbers and some of the things that were in there before that they just kind of, redid in kind of a cleaner look. I like how they've done the concourses in terms of the concession stands. The best way I can put this is they're deeper into the wall, right? You walk by those concession stands. They've moved them even deeper in to open up the concourses a little bit. There is COVID protocols in place. So you either have to be vaccinated or test negative within 72 hours of the game. If you have children from the ages of 5 to 11 years old, they have to show a negative test to get into the Dome, because obviously they're not eligible for the vaccine yet. So be wary of that. They no longer accept cash at the Dome. So be wary of that. It's all digital. So have your, debit card, your credit card, your Apple Pay on your phone, whatever the case may be. There's no longer paper tickets as well. So those of you that, get season tickets or get tickets to the game, I'm sure you realize this by now, but just so you know, no paper tickets either. So you got to have everything on your phone, have it digital, and the COVID protocol. So be aware of that before you go. Maybe leave a little extra time before you go into the Carrier Dome next week. The lighting's great, Clark, to answer your question. It's so much brighter in there. If anything, I think it might have been too bright at FanFest. I saw Dino Babers talking to a couple Dome officials after that, and he was kind of pointing up at the light. So I think they're still working on that, but it still has the feel of the Carrier Dome. I hope it's still loud as always, and it still has that great home field advantage, and the fans will be into it, and we'll be glad to be back in person and watching football. But definitely feels like a new building too. Carrier Dome 2.0. I know they don't like us to call it the Carrier Dome anymore, but it's certainly the best way I can put it is it's Carrier Dome 2.0. It has all the modern amenities you need, but still has the feel and certainly the home field advantage that Syracuse is looking for. And that's who they get next, folks. They get the Rutgers Scarlet Knights off that 61-14 win over Temple. I love that Rutgers is back on the schedule. They were supposed to play last year, of course, but Syracuse went to that all-conference schedule and kind of that amended schedule they had to play a year ago. Syracuse doesn't have a true rival. They don't. I mean, Boston College is a regional rival. Pittsburgh is a team that you've played through the years, but those don't feel on par with a Syracuse Georgetown or a Syracuse Connecticut or even what Syracuse Duke has become on the basketball side of things. You go back to those Big East days, there were some real heated matchups between Syracuse and Rutgers. And when, the Pasqualoni era ended and the Robinson era came and Schiano just kind of took all those players and those recruits that Syracuse used to get, notably Ray Rice, and we all know what happened to Ray Rice later, but he was a huge, huge miss for Syracuse in the recruiting world. And, Jersey used to be Syracuse territory, and Schiano kind of moved in and took it back, and then Syracuse took some of those players back when he left to go on to the NFL and other places, but he is back, speaking of 2.0, and I like that juice. I like that rivalry. Tommy DeVito is certainly going to be excited for that matchup, being the Jersey boy. And there's a couple Jersey kids. Taj Harris is a Jersey kid, right? And I'm glad that's back on the schedule. That feels more like a rivalry, almost more than anything that's on the Syracuse schedule. And it's a non-conference game. because they're in the Big Ten, and you just kind of deal with the world of realignment in college football today, as weird as that is. But I love that Rutgers is back on the schedule, and that is who is next for Syracuse next week. And right off the top of my head, I'll look it up for you guys here. That is a weird time next week. That's a 2:00 kickoff on the ACC network. They're kind of scattering these games around due to, TV and getting the games on TV and all that. So a weird start time, but early afternoon start time, 2:00 kick for Syracuse. And we'll be right here after the game, as we were today, presented by our friends at Krause Health. And we thank you for coming. We thank Scott Trimble and for bringing us the Dino Babers press conference, and Chris Carlson for joining us. And we're going to be here all season, folks, after every Syracuse football game, locked and loaded, right here, talking to you live on Facebook or YouTube. If you miss it, by the way, don't worry, because this archives into a nice YouTube video. I embed that in my recap on syracuse.com. We're going to make it its own story on syracuse.com. You'll see the headline in case you missed it. You can always find it on the Syracuse Orange Sports YouTube page. So if you can't be here with us live, you can always watch the show on replay via YouTube. Thanks for being with us here live. It's back, kids. Football. You guys ready? Syracuse is 1-0, already matching the win total from a year ago, and they'll try and make it 2-0 against the Rutgers Scarlet Knights next week. Thanks to everybody for watching tonight. Thanks to Krause Health, of course, and can't wait to be talking football again with you guys next week